For more on how the Occupy movement is working with ordinary Americans, I'm joined from California by David Meyer. He's a professor of sociology at the University of California at Irvine. So, Mr. Meyer, we just saw a concrete example of how the Occupy Wall Street movement is helping ordinary Americans. Do you think that this is the most effective way for social movements to help people who are hurting?
I think social movements do lots and lots of different things, and you don't know what's going to matter until after the fact. The big story about Occupy is the occupations themselves got a huge amount of attention and changed political discourse in the United States so that people were suddenly talking about inequality, suddenly talking about poverty, suddenly talking about health insurance, suddenly talking about underemployment and student debt and foreclosures. Now, the occupations are gone, but the occupiers are not. And they're pouring out into doing all kinds of different things, like trying to help Monique White keep her house. And I hope that they're helpful with Monique, but more importantly, they got coverage on Al Jazeera. They got national attention for pointing out, here's a woman who has had a job, who wants to work and can't maintain her house. She's not alone. There are lots of people like her. And
right,
that's how...
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to ask you if this sort of direct action, if I can sort of put it that way, is the best way to bring about a change in policy when you compare it to perhaps thousands of people gathering in a square and protesting. I mean, this is one of the things that the Occupy Wall Street movement was perhaps criticized for doing, in a sense that it wasn't coming up with a concrete strategy to help ordinary Americans.
For social movements, it can't be either or. Protest or participate in elections or do direct action. It has to be all of those things at the same time. And when those different sorts of efforts are connected, that's when social movement campaigns are most effective. Now, it's 2012 in the United States, or almost 2012, and we have regular elections. And there's one party that says the way to bring jobs and prosperity back to the United States is by cutting government spending and cutting taxes. There's another party that's trying to figure out what it wants to say, but President Obama says, let's extend unemployment insurance by taxing millionaires more. Now, which of those strategies is more credible to Americans is going to determine the future of the United States. And the campaign, like the one to protect Monique White, is part of the story.
Do you see, I mean, you mentioned, yes, of course, 2012, do you see some of these issues that have been raised by Occupy, economic injustice and economic inequality, being translated into policy? Do the politicians care enough to want to act on it?
That's really the question. One of the interesting things that's happened is President Obama has finally won a little battle with Congress in the last 2-3 days by extending unemployment insurance and extending a payroll tax cut for working Americans. Now, it's a small victory, but President Obama is watching the occupiers in the street and seeing there may be support for taking steps for government action to do something to help people who are suffering from this economy, to help people directly.
All right.
Now,
I'm sorry. I think we're actually out of time. Sorry to cut you off there in mid-flow. David Meyer, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you very much.